What's up, everyone? Thank you for checking out this episode of Raised a Geek. This week, we review all 5 episodes of Echo. Is it a bright mark in the MCU or just another disappointing episode? So let's get into it. I'm Chris, and as always, I'm here with my buddy Don. How we doing, man?
Chris, what is up today, my friend? Everything is okay. Everything's good. Just it's cold, but it's good. The world
I
is
know
cold.
it's like 30 something here, man. Jeez, so
Shut
cold.
up. For you guys, for you Texans, uh yeah, 30 degrees here is like a just a, put on a little bit of a jacket and go outside and you're cool. You can almost wear flip-flops. Well, not we're not going to go that far, but
Some
uh
some people do.
some people do. Some crazy people do. But yeah, it's cold. It's like sub-zero temperatures. That's why I'm not going outside. So I'm glad I'm here in the warm house getting ready to do this podcast with you about Echo. But I'm okay. Everything is good. How are you doing?
Pretty much the same. Super wild card weekend, watching football, watching some movies, kind of just having a lazy weekend. It is colder for us here, so I don't mind going out in it, but I don't need to go out into it. I just keep preparing for the worst, because you just never know if the we're about to hit going into tonight into to tomorrow, we're going to get into the teens reportedly,
Oh my God.
which is kind of crazy for here. And last time that happened, they shut off our power. So, flashbacks of
Yeah, your entire grid went down when when it
yeah,
got
they
too
were like, we
cold.
can't handle it. They literally are sending us emails like, hey, we're aware of the storm. We're ready. And we're like, thanks, power grid. Like, you should be ready. Like, that's your sole purpose of existence is to give me power.
And also, I don't believe you.
And also, I don't believe you because I watched the news and I've seen that there's been nothing done to make it better. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
it's
we'll
it's
see.
cold. It's like some kind of, is this El Nino or something? This is like something going on, just cooling down the entire world. It's really cold in California and Florida too, places where it's normally warm. And
It's it's
wa-
January.
watching football yesterday, that Kansas City Chiefs game with Andy Reid with icicles in his mustache and
Yeah.
are out there play. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's kind of a bummer just seeing like I know it's football and I know it's like play in all, rain or sleet nor snow, all that stuff, the post office creed.
I was gonna say post office. That's their
But
thing.
but it's, football was always the same thing. But yeah, watching Miami try to play in the cold yesterday, I was like, man, I really wish it was
Yeah,
warmer and it would have been a better game.
yeah. Well,
But
should have won more games. You could have had a home game, Miami. Shouldn't have
that's
felt falling apart at the end, and you could have been playing in sunny Miami. But oh well.
yeah. Well, the other thing, getting ready for Super Wildcard Weekend that kept me entertained was watching Marvel's Echo, which dropped simultaneously on Disney Plus and Hulu this week. All 5 episodes. So it was the first Marvel show to get a full binge drop. Did you
Yes.
like that? How'd you feel
Um.
about an MCU show getting 5 episodes just dropped on Tuesday night?
I don't know, because we've kind of gone on record here before talking about we prefer weekly drops to a binge model
Hmm.
because that's just like, I don't know. It seems like it leaves more room for talk. It leaves more room for, you know, um, yourself. Like, we're not binge people, so we don't really like to do it if we can help it. And then
Yeah.
when you do have binge models, if it's something crazy that everyone wants to watch, now somebody can sit there and watch the whole thing in one day. And like, we don't like spoilers either. So all of a sudden now you're risking that. Somebody who's seen the entire show telling you what happened. I wasn't so worried about it with this. Um, as compared to something like, I don't know, Stranger Things or something on Netflix I might want to see and be like, I gotta ignore Stranger Things talk for the next month while I try to watch this.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that about this one because 5 episodes doesn't seem to be that big of a deal to binge through.
Yeah.
And when we looked at the episode lengths, I mean, the first one was a little long, like 50 minutes, but it like gradually they got shorter as they went.
Yeah.
I think by the time you get to the fifth one, it was like 30 minutes or something.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I can't really say whether I prefer it or not. It was just, I mean, I was able to watch this thing in 2 sittings. Like I watched the premiere, and then like the next day I watched the final four just because I had some time. So,
Yep.
good and bad with that. I don't know, what did you think? Is it
it,
matter?
it doesn't really matter. I mean, every show is going to be different. I liked it for this one just to kind of get it all said and done, just kind of like watch it, like I said, with the length time. And I've struggled with some of these MCU shows of even wanting to go back. I've had to almost binge them, like Secret Invasion. I couldn't even keep up with that week by week because I forgot about it. So I think that this series that they put together was a perfect experiment for the binge drop. I thought the way that this show paced itself, the way that it worked really well to just give me all the episodes at one time and don't make me wait.
I think they are doing like a little bit of experimentation, like you just said, with it because of the previous show to this, which neither one of us watched, but What If season 2,
Oh yeah,
that that uh that did 9 episodes, but they did them 9 consecutive days,
yeah, over
which I
Christmas.
yeah, which I found interesting too. So I think they are trying to figure out what works best for them.
Yeah,
And this also being a simultaneous Hulu drop. I don't know if that has to do with it being TV mature or they just wanted to like try to get it on their other platform that Disney owns for those who don't have Disney. I don't know.
it seemed
I was
really weird that they dropped it. Just everything about this show seemed weird. Like it, they just kind of. We always knew it was going to be existed. It was announced forever ago, even before she showed up in Hawkeye. So we always knew that this show was coming. But then, like, when we got that first trailer like a month ago, they're just like, oh, look at this. It's TVMA. Look at how violent this is. Then it was like, you're getting all 5 episodes in like 2 weeks. Here you go. You're welcome. And you're like, and they're like, oh, and by the way, it's going to be on Hulu too. So I'm just like, okay, are you guys nervous that no one's going to either one like this show or no one's going to watch it? So you're putting it everywhere all at one time to try to like maximize
yeah.
more out of it, or what are you doing here? But the whole marketing campaign of this show has been unique.
Yeah. I think they're trying different things like we just kind of were
Hmm.
alluding to. They're trying different things to see what works and um yeah, I mean it's all
Yeah,
kind of interesting. That's all
it was just
interesting
an
by itself.
interesting thing,
Yeah.
and as we said, this was the first like Marvel Spotlight show, which I found really funny because like the whole idea of the Marvel Spotlight is that you can watch this show and be able to just watch it and enjoy it
As a standalone.
as a standalone. And I'm sorry, but that did not work for this because the first episode was all just like Hawkeye recap and reminiscing about where we were and who this character is and what are we doing. And I'm like, okay, I thought this was supposed to be a spotlight and I should just be able to just sit down and pop some popcorn and have a good time. And I just found that funny that they were like, this is what it is. And then it was it really?
I think yeah, I get your point. I think that the spotlight of it is supposed to kind of I don't know if it's necessarily saying, "Hey, you can watch this without having ever seen whatever," because that is hard to do with Echo because she has been introduced in a previous show.
Right.
So we kind of had to remember what she was doing and where she was at. I think with the Marvel Spotlight, it's kind of like, "Hey, this isn't really connected to the bigger picture. Like, you don't need to know what's going on in the multiverse saga to be watching Echo."
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe that's just the way to interpret it, but
And then maybe and this could be 100% not like Marvel's fault on this, Disney,
mhm.
Marvel, whatever, but like all I've seen now is like all of these things about how like can Maya be the chart leader of the X-Men, and can Maya do this, and like tying this show into the larger narrative. And maybe we've just been trained to think that way, so we haven't like broke out of that. But knowing that there's like a Daredevil show where the assumption is that Maya would be in that, so then that's like still connecting her. So now we're just kind of back to where Netflix was, where we have our street level world and our
Mm.
MCU world. So it's just like, wait, it's been 15 years of being very confused, and now you're trying to change the rules on us. I just found it funny. It was just
They're they're
reading
throwing they're,
through the reactions for this show.
they're throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks right now. Is
Hmm.
they've been having some troubles. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, for those that don't know, Echo came out. Echo
It's a
came
thing.
out. All 5 episodes dropped on Disney Plus and Hulu. Here's a brief description for what the show is for those that don't know. It stars Maya Lopez. Well, not stars, but the main character's name is Maya Lopez. That's not the actress's name, but Maya Lopez from man, I cannot talk today.
Eh,
Maya Lopez from Hawkeye
yes.
must face her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace the meaning of family and community if she ever hopes to move forward. So this show kind of was picking up we Hawkeye for as we shouldn't have to do this with Marvel Spotlight, but whatever.
Yeah.
With Hawkeye, we did meet Maya, and we met her family and her parents and what she was, and she was deaf, basic hit woman for Kingpin ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And in Hawkeye, we realized that Kingpin had her father murdered to get
Yes.
out of the way, and he adopted basically her. He was like Uncle Kingpin and raised Maya from being a little girl.
Yes.
Is that right? Wait, he was just Uncle Kingpin, and then he killed
Uncle
later,
King,
right?
Uncle Kingpin. Uh, wait, what was your question?
He was he didn't kill her dad until she was an adult.
Correct.
So he kind
Because
of took her, okay, but he was still just a father figure to her,
her
even
whole
with her dad being alive.
her whole thing in which I don't even remember how this kind of played out. Her whole thing was in Hawkeye, her character was trying to take down Ronan, which
Yeah.
as we found out later was Clint when he was like sad and depressed and killing criminals during
Hmm.
after the blip or whatever.
Hmm.
Because she thought that Ronan killed her father when really it was Kingpin
Hmm.
or Kingpin
Had
had him
her,
killed.
yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, the first episode did kind of have to remind us of it, which I didn't mind too much because I kind of forgot some of it. So I
I
was
didn't mind, but it made for a jarring episode, first episode where they were kind of jumping around, and I was like, I feel like I've already seen this, and a lot of
well,
scenes,
some of it was straight
yeah,
clips from
yeah.
Hawkeye. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was like, okay, I remember this, I remember that. Who was? And then I'm trying to remember. I'm like, who? It took me a minute to remember. Like, I'm like, well, I know it wasn't like Clint that killed her dad,
hmm
but it was because he still killed her. He still killed her dad, but Kingpin's the one who like leaked the information so he would go do it. So he used Ronan to do it, or
Yeah,
used Hawkeye to kill her dad. But yeah,
yeah, something like that.
something like that. And we got a Daredevil cameo in the first episode, which is always fun.
hmm We
Which
did.
is always fun. But yeah, it was an interesting first shot at these Marvel spotlights, and I thought they did a good job in this opening of just like I said, reminding you who this character was, even because she was already previously established. But that's where we got. But before we dive too much deeper into the nitty gritty of this show, I'm kind of curious what kind of conversation we're going to have here, Don. And what were some of your overall thoughts? What did you think of the what did you think of Marvel's Echo?
Um, yeah. Uh, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. And I didn't necessarily think it was going to end up that way. This show, through the 5 episode length, I'll just be transparent in saying like it grew on me because I did not like it at first. Like I think the first episode and second episode I found kind of weak. But as it was going and kind of revving up, its motor a little bit, I started getting a little more invested in what was going on. I mean, definitely there was stuff in the first episode and second episode that were cool. Like obviously, like you just said, Daredevil, which we'll talk a little bit more about. There was a train sequence in the second episode was like
Hmm.
that was kind of cool, but those 2 episodes like suffered from a lot of weird pacing to me that I just was like kind of groaning. But
Hmm.
3, 4, and 5 were a little better. 3 was okay. I think 4 and 5 were pretty good. Once we started getting into like Kingpin stuff,
Hmm.
um, which I enjoyed the Kingpin segments of this show. I think that was getting him a little closer to a little. He's not there yet, but it was definitely getting him closer to the Netflix feel of Kingpin more so
Yeah.
than when he was in Hawkeye. Hawkeye was more like family friendly, bouncing Kate Bishop off the walls and wearing weird Hawaiian shirts. This one, he got his hands dirty a little bit more.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it was pretty good. I liked it more than Secret Invasion. I kind of almost liked it more than Loki. season 2, if I'm being honest.
Hmm.
I thought it was kind of like a nice breath of fresh air for Marvel not being so cosmic and everything tied into multiverse. This one, granted, there's some weird superpowers going on at the end that are hard to explain, but for the most part, it felt more grounded.
Yeah.
I like that it was like contained, like to her story and like a small, a little bit in New York, but mostly in like Oklahoma. So it felt more, small scale. And
Yeah.
like me and you talk about, we like the street level stuff. And this was kind of more street level stuff than anything we've seen, kind of what Secret Invasion was supposed to be, but it got all fucking stupid with scrolls and weird powers and Khaleesi's and whatever. But not to talk about Secret
Khaleesi's.
Invasion. But yeah,
Super powered Khaleesi
superpower Khaleesi's.
that they now have to like write out and be like,
Yeah.
she's too strong. What did we do? She's got a Batista arm.
Right. But anyway, no, I thought Echo was pretty good, man. I didn't. It's nothing like blew me away, but it was a all right watch to me, all in all, when I took all 5 episodes in. So yeah, I was good with it. What about you?
I liked it. I liked it. I'm going to start with that. I did like this show. I thought, especially when we think about the last handful of MCU projects, I do think that this does stand above them. I think it had a lot more going for it and a lot more entertaining than a lot of what you just said. I didn't really enjoy Loki season 2. I didn't enjoy Secret Invasion. I don't even remember the last MCU movie I saw. Outside of Guardians of the Galaxy last year, there wasn't really much from the MCU that I genuinely enjoyed. And this is a strong start to 2024. I will say that. Is this show perfect? No. My other problem with this show, and this is 100% a me problem, I think more so than anything else, what we got for this show was not anything that I wanted.
Hmm.
It's like I was watching the trailers and I was kind of getting genuinely pumped up for that like Netflix Daredevil violent martial arts kind of dark gritty story. And I know you said I'm going to say the opposite of what you said here. I thought it started stronger than it ended. So like
Mm.
I watched the first episode and I was like, hell yes, I am here for this. I'm gonna enjoy this show. Like I enjoyed the New York of it. I enjoyed the fighting. And I know I've been seeing all kinds of stuff, people bashing the choreography for the fighting, and I'm really not gonna get into that. I thought it had some cool moments and it had some other moments that didn't work as well. But I was like, hell yeah, we're getting the violence, we're getting that grittiness, we're getting some of that. Let's go. And then she went to Oklahoma and all of that disappeared for the whole rest of the show. I never felt that vibe again. And that was what I wanted. So ultimately, like everything ended up just kind of being disappointing to me. So it's like I enjoyed what they were doing, but I'm like, this isn't what I want to be watching. So it was very jarring, and why I was glad that they dumped it in like a binge model, because if it wasn't, I don't know if I would have like outside of us wanting to talk about it here, I don't know if I would have ever went back to it just because it wasn't what I wanted. And once again, that's kind of a me thing, I would imagine. Those are my expectations that I set for the show based on their marketing. But like that was kind of what I wanted, and I didn't feel like we got that. And for them to even kind of, I don't know, I felt like they leaned into that TVMA thing, and I didn't feel that. Like I just didn't feel that being Marvel's first like mature product. Like yeah, there were a couple, shooting a couple people in the face, but it just felt so tacked on. And then once you got past that first episode, everything like the action and stuff, what action there was seemed almost cartoony versus realistic and gritty. Like that first episode with Daredevil, everything felt gritty and bloody. And yeah, you had Kingpin beating up some dudes later in later episodes, but you just didn't have that vibe that they were really promising. It was kind of, it kept reminding me of Moon Knight, where that's what they were reminding us. That's what they were like promising us with Moon Knight, and we didn't get it. They're like, this is going to be like Marvel you've never seen before. It's going to be brutal, and Moon Knight's intense. And then he wasn't. He had one scene where he showed a little brutality beating up a CGI dog, and then everything else was just comedy. And you're just like, okay. Um, so it makes it hard for me to be like, yeah, Echo, because it was just like what we got wasn't what I wanted. And like you said, I wanted that street level. So then when we started dealing with Native American magic and stuff, I was like, I see what you're doing there, but I don't want that. Like, I want to see her whooping ass. I want to see her doing these things. So it kind of really tears me two different ways with what I thought of this show because I really did like it and I like what they did and I liked the most of the performances. There were some things that were a little uneven. Kingpin, I'm always going to be happy when Vincent D'Onofrio shows back up as Kingpin, even if he's neutered Kingpin. Um, he still just delivers. He just has a presence on screen that just he steals every scene that he's in, and I really enjoyed that. Didn't necessarily enjoy the final like fight or moment where he, I guess, learned humanity somehow. As Don said, the her powers weren't very fleshed out or explained very well, in my opinion. I feel like I was like, wait, she could do what? And like it it seemed very tacked on. It worked for the story that they were telling, but if you're telling me like in the future what Echo's gonna do is like if say she's gonna be part of the X-Men, what is her power? She can
Yeah.
summon a ghost version of her mom to possess other people to fight for her. Like it was
Yeah.
confusing and I don't know, like I was very startled and it made me genuinely laugh when she was like throwing spirits of other warriors into her old grandma to start beating up people. I was like, what is happening right now?
Yeah.
But overall I did like this show. There's a lot of things that'll make it sound like I didn't, but I want to put it on the record first that I did enjoy this show for what it was. It just wasn't necessarily what I wanted it to be, so it's hard for me, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
No, yeah, it does. I and I understand a lot of what you're saying. Like it, what it boils down to, I think, with the feel of we've been chasing the Netflix Marvel vibe for years, and it hasn't been nothing's been able to deliver on that since those shows. Daredevil in particular.
I mean, that's the main
Um,
one I watched. Like, I mean, I
yeah,
didn't I didn't watch all the Netflix shows, so I can't even tell you like why I would be attached to that, but I was genuinely excited for it.
yeah, and I think that's part of what, like you said, affected Moon Knight. Like we thought we were gonna get that feeling, we didn't. With this, we kind of did and we didn't. The TV mature rating, I feel, was just kind of tacked on there and not earned, like you just kind of said. Um, because yeah, there was just a couple scenes where okay, there's a little more blood than we'd normally see, and that's about it.
The first episode was the only one where people were getting shot in the head and there was blood and like the first episode felt had that vibe
Yeah,
and it
and
never came back.
the one scene in when they were fighting everybody in the roller rink and the one guy got shot and then they focused on his face of him like bleeding through his
Oh
mouth.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, I was like, I get it, that's TV mature, but that's all that really like. So I kind of feel like they didn't even need to advertise it as this is our TV mature. What it didn't have to be. There was no, they didn't really warrant it. Um,
No,
I,
it's
I
the
think,
opposite of what we talked about with Rebel Moon. Rebel Moon, you could tell needed to be rated R,
mhm,
and this one tried to be rated R.
yeah,
It's just back for sorry. Keep going.
no, no, yeah. I totally understand what you're saying about like it didn't deliver on what you wanted it to be because we haven't had that yet.
Yeah.
I think that's part of why there's so much expectation and hope of the new Daredevil series, and I have my doubts about if they're going to be able to pull it off. Disney hasn't shown they're been able to pull that off yet. Um,
No, with their track record the last couple of years, I can't imagine them. They can re-screenwrite it. They could bring back Foggy and Karen, and they could do all of these things that they're talking about doing to try to get as close to that as possible. But I just can't imagine them being able to pull it off
one
unless they
thing I
bring back those showrunners and people.
Well, one thing I did read, which I found kind of interesting, was Daredevil is going to be the first show that has a true showrunner, like on
Oh,
of these Disney Plus shows. They kind of do, but like this one has one guy who's going to oversee all the episodes. Where in all the other cases, it's kind of broken up, and that's why
mhm.
editing seems weird sometimes. And just like even in this
I
show, the even in this show, the editing was a little odd at times. You're like, what is it just kind of didn't make sense. I don't know if you kind of felt that
oh,
too. Some
100%.
of the things. That's why I said they made the pacing feel weird sometimes because it's like, what are we jumping to? What is this now? Where are we at? It's not explained. Like,
There's a lot of non-explained, a
yeah,
lot of just things that happened just to happen. And I did read that this was supposed to be 6 episodes and they cut a whole episode out. So that could be
yeah,
a large portion of that too.
which would explain a lot of the missing. Five is a weird number. I don't
Yeah.
know. Like, it just doesn't. No show's ever like 5 episode season. It's kind of
Usually you're an
strange.
even number.
Yeah.
You're 6, you're 8, you're 10, you're 12, you're 14.
Yeah, you're not 5 or 7. You know what I mean? You're
Yeah,
just it's so that would explain some of the stuff that felt like it was missing. I agree with her powers weren't explained very well and just kind of like thrown at you, be like, huh? What can she do? What's she doing? Can she heal people? Can is she just able to toss her powers to other people? Like now they can fight because she can fight. Can she summon all these ghosts? Is that all what it is, or what is it? Like, explain it to me. Um, which is a total change from her powers in the
yeah,
comics. Because in the comic book, she's like she can just mimic people's moves. Basically, her and Taskmaster have the same powers. I
yeah.
wonder if they changed it because we've already seen a Taskmaster in the MCU and they just didn't want to do that again.
No, well, I read an interview with the showrunner lady, and I can't remember her name, but she directed episodes like 1, 2, 4, and 5. Like she directed 4 out of the 5 episodes. I
Hmm.
forgot what the number is. And in the interview that she said, basically like Echo's powers in the comic book are that she can mimic and copy other people. Well, that's stupid. And we didn't want to do that. So we made her powers different. And then I stopped reading the article because then they were like spoilers, 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 and I wasn't done yet. But I was trying to figure out what her powers were. When we hit that second episode where she was on the train and her hands started glowing, I was like, what the fuck is happening? And I was just sitting
Yeah.
there like, her hands didn't glow in the other one. Like, what are we talking about here? Even watching the opening scene with the telling the story of how they came to be the first members of their tribe and all of these things. And I was like, this is not how I expected this show to start.
Yeah.
And then her hands start glowing and she's moving stuff with her hands. And I'm like, wait, is she telepathic? What's happening? So I'm looking up like what Echo's powers are. And I saw that she was very similar to Taskmaster. And then I found that interview with the showrunner in air quotes, where she said her comic book powers are stupid, so we changed it. And I think we did better. So I'm like, okay. But then I'm
Well,
like, well, no,
that's
because
subjective. That's
yes.
subjective.
And also it goes back to my original point is like I like her original powers because I wanted to see that. So like
Hmm.
that was I mean Black Widow, the best part of that entire movie was when she fought Taskmaster
Right.
in the street and they could like counter everything that Black Widow tried to do. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So I
I
was
think it
like
could.
ready
Yeah.
for more of that.
I think they could have stuck with closer to the comic book myself too,
Yeah.
because I just don't understand what she can do. So if we ever see her again, maybe hopefully they explain or expand on that a little bit more. But it was just kind of like wonky to me and not laid out enough for the viewer.
It was very and we've seen this before. It was very X-Men
Hmm.
in the terms of the fact of like, well, her powers can be whatever we need them to be in the situation. Like you
Right.
watch those X-Men movies, especially the later ones, and it always seemed like they just had some random mutant that had the power to get them out of the room or get them out of the jam. Oh, we're in a jam. If only we could get through this wall. Well, my mutant power is that I can shrink down and crawl underneath the door. Oh, do that. Cool. And you're just like, oh, okay. You just
Hmm.
always have someone with the right power at the right moment to get you out of the jam. And that's what it felt like. It seemed
Yeah,
like,
because
oh, my
she
leg's
could
stuck.
do she could do like 5 different things. you
Mm-hmm.
know she could heal people. She could also, you got to get out of this room, you got to be able to knock out all these dudes, give your powers to your best friend and your grandma so they can fight with you. You need to stop Kingpin when he's running at you, touch his chest and remind him of his childhood and make him remember his humanity. Like, what are you really, what are these
Yeah.
abilities?
Yeah, I didn't get
Yeah.
it. I mean, I understand what they were going for and
Yeah.
that like that culture and her history and the all the legacy that comes with like the line and all of those things. I get what they were going for, but when it comes to like a superpower, it's like, well, you can't just be everything or nothing at the same time. Like you have to have defined rules a little bit into what you're doing. And yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't feel like they did when she threw her dead mom's spirit at her grandma to take over so she could beat up a guard. I was like, what is happening? And they were always talking about
That grandma
warriors.
uppercutted that man
Dude, I
so
died.
hard.
I died. I died.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was laughing so hard. It was so stupid. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But like they were all showing like the warriors of this tribe. But then
Hmm.
like her mom was in there and I'm like, was her mom a warrior?
No, I just think because her mom was the last one to have that power, so she had to be kind of in there. She was
In
like the
there?
healer of the group or whatever.
And it was really confusing when they were showing because you watch that whole opening of like the second or third episode where they did like showed the girl who wanted to be what did they call the Native American police? The feather.
Oh, they were like I was gonna say light walkers, but it's something like that. I
Yeah. Like when we were watching that whole opening, I thought that was an old TV show.
mm,
So I didn't realize, like, because of the style and in which they did that, where they made it look old timey. I thought that it was like clips from like a hero of theirs, and like I thought it was like a movie or a TV show, like a silent movie or something. So
well,
it
that's
took,
that's the vibe they were trying to give it.
but then I thought that wasn't like an actress and like a story. But then that chick was showing up as a Native American warrior in spirit form, and I'm like, oh, she was real.
Right,
Like
right.
I didn't even know she was real because I thought it was just an actress for like a silent film that they had, and they were just showing like part of the history. So I didn't, yeah,
Another
I
thing
didn't
that
get.
was confusing from editing and shortening and cutting things out, I think.
Hmm.
That's
Oh yeah,
another part that suffered, definitely.
that's, I mean, and realistically, the majority of my issues outside of the marketing and like kind of what I said with this is goes down to the editing. There was just a lot of things happen, and I was like, huh?
Hmm.
And I'm like, Maya hasn't been in this town or been around her family in 20 years. Why does she have everyone's cell phone number?
Right,
Why is
right.
everyone like, okay, oh, Maya's back, Maya's back? But some people knew and some people didn't. But then I never, like, that one dude was talking when he mentioned about Maya being back. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. And you're
Yeah,
mentioning in front of grandma that Maya's back. And I'm like, I thought they weren't telling anybody.
yeah, and even his introduction, like the guy, his name was Biscuits. First of all, I
Yeah, I
think,
know.
like, what a weird name.
Yeah,
I think that was the name anyway.
it
But
was.
who, like, when he first showed up and like opened the door and Maya came out, I was like, who is he? Like,
Yeah, I didn't know.
he's just like, there. And then eventually you find out they're cousins. Like, they never said anything about this dude. How am I supposed to know who that is? He's just like, Maya, good to see you. Like,
Yeah,
who are you?
they were doing flashbacks. They did all these flashbacks to make sure we knew who Maya and Bonnie were and how they were like sisters.
Yeah. So
But then I felt
where was
like,
Biscuits?
yeah, and
Right.
where was Biscuits? And then I feel like Biscuits, I feel like Biscuits got like that spotlight that Bonnie
Mhm.
should have had. Like
Right.
it should have been Bonnie showing up at that house and then being somewhat upset about being like ditched by her thing. But like Bonnie felt like an afterthought with how much like effort they put into her. She was
Mhm.
like, she showed up in episode 3, was a hostage, and then you didn't see her again until the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, I thought she was important. You made Biscuits way more important than you did Bonnie.
Biscuits. Uh,
So
the most nonsensical scene of this entire series to me, you just reminded me when you said Bonnie, was that scene in the I think it was episode 3 where they were like kidnapped in the skating rink.
mhm.
So that's the first time Bonnie and Maya got to see each other again. And then like Echo was able to free herself with that knife. So
Yeah.
she cut him loose. And they came in that room with guns.
Yeah.
And Maya was like, "I'm gonna punch you," and she
Yeah.
did. And but then but then those girls just like, "Whoa, whoa, what's going on here?" And like just
Oh
holding
my
guns
God,
at
those
them.
girls.
And then they just walked backwards with Bonnie out of the room and just locked the door with Maya still in there. Like, what is?
And
None
then
of this is
then
making any
wasn't it like a
sense,
minute later Maya was sitting down and pretending like she was still tied up?
or something.
Something
Just
like that.
everything about that scene just didn't make any sense. Like, why didn't Maya beat their asses in there? Why didn't she hide when they were coming in the room and like get out? Why did she let them point the guns at her? You know what I mean? It's just
And
like
why did she punch her cousin? Like what was she
didn't
trying to accomplish for that?
didn't
Like
make any sense. It didn't make any sense.
they're
It
like, whoa,
made
whoa,
zero.
don't hit each other. And they just like separated them. And you're like, oh, were you
Yeah,
trying to keep her safe? Or like, because they just took her away with the guns.
yeah. Maya was like, I had to make it look real. For what? Make what look real? What was the point? Yeah, I didn't
Yeah, I don't know.
understand that. That's a weird sidebar. Just I
No, it that there were the show is littered with those moments where I was just kind of like, huh?
Yeah,
And like, why did they do that? What was the point of that? What are you doing? And
I
sometimes
don't
they
know.
gave you an answer. Most of the time they didn't, you know, and I was just like, whose side is anyone on? Like there was a lot of confusing moments like that. But yes, those guards, those bumbling women guards
Yeah,
were next level, man. They were just next level of just
yeah.
grumpiness and whatever they were. I don't know what they were going for there.
Pointlessness, basically.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, overall, like I said, they were going for the family connection, it just wasn't necessarily what I wanted in a show, and I felt like I didn't feel like anybody really they gave anyone really enough time to earn any type of, like, emotional weight behind what they were doing. Like, it was very they kinda tried to keep it way too light for the story that they wanted to tell. And what's gonna, once again, supersede everything that I said before, one of the things that I did struggle a lot with this show was Maya
Mhm.
because of her rage and just being, like, all encompassing of her as a character and just being mad. And it made me not care about her as much as they wanted me to. And, like, plus I know she's a killer. So, like, they wanted me to care a lot about her and her well-being and her thing, but I'm like, she's a murderer, like a hit woman, murderer. I understand, like, she has childhood rage of her mom dying, and I understand she has all of these other, like, issues, but it's been 20 years, and,
Mhm.
like, you're still extremely grumpy and mad at your grandma
Yeah.
or thing. And, like, I don't know, it's just her grumpiness kind of like she never smiled, she never just was a likable character to me to make me really care about a lot of what was going on. So that was one of my other real struggles I had with just the portrayal of Maya. Like at the end, when she was like smiling and seemed everyone was happy and they had their Fast and the Furious family dinner at the end, I was like, oh, where was this Maya the whole time? Like you couldn't have made her a little bit more tragic just so I could like have sympathy for her. Like I didn't feel the things they wanted me to feel towards Maya.
And it's hard to feel things for someone who their character is cold.
Yes.
But that's kind of the personality they give her. The most I feel for Maya is like in the flashbacks of her as a kid and like
Yeah.
seeing the things that got her to where she is, like
Yeah.
the way she's manipulated and raised and the things she's seen. Like I like baby Maya more than adult Maya,
Yeah.
to be honest. But yeah, it's hard to sympathize with someone who's cold. Part of that, I don't like nothing against her, but I think she is kind of a newer actress. Like she's not
Mhm.
really been in anything except
Yeah.
Hawkeye and this show. So sometimes I feel like she has a kind of a novice way of conveying things
Yeah.
that don't aren't always like the best sell. Like she has weird facial expressions at weird times sometimes, and like
Yeah.
when something weird's going on, she'll just like raise one eyebrow, like like all right, you're learning on the job, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Nothing against her, but I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere, and I do like the authenticity of her being a deaf actress playing a deaf character. You know that helps definitely. So she's not faking any of it, but yeah, I kind of agree with you. It's hard to root for this character when she's just kind of like a one note personality, like just a very cold person.
Well, I think ultimately too, my kind of other problem, I guess, was I don't know what she was trying to do.
Hmm.
So, like, we had Hawkeye. She found out about Kingpin killing her dad. She shot Kingpin in the head, killed him as far as she was aware, and then went to Oklahoma. But
Hmm.
then didn't want her family to know she was there. But what was she there to do?
Why did she go back to
Why did
Oklahoma?
she go back to Oklahoma? If she wanted to be Queen Pin, like she said later, why didn't she stay in New York and just try to take over? She killed Kingpin. What was she running from? Why did she feel the need to have to go? Why didn't she stay in New York? Like, why did she go home? I know they had the scene with the train and she set the bomb up and blew up Kingpin's warehouse, but why did she even do that? As far as she was aware, Kingpin was dead. And like, so I mean, why did she go home?
I don't know. I think part of it was like some of his operations were going on in Oklahoma, and like
Yeah,
she knew her uncle
yeah.
was connected to it. So I think maybe she was starting there and gonna try to stop what he was doing in Oklahoma first and then maybe move on. I don't know. It is a good
But
question.
was she trying to stop that? Because she was like talking. It sounded like when she was talking, and like even when Kingpin was offering her like the kingdom, she was like, "He wants me to be Queen Pin, and I'm going to start here." So I'm like, "Wait, why? This is what you want? Then why did you leave? Like, why are you there?"
Well, because she still hates Kingpin, so that's why she didn't accept his
Well, no,
offer.
yeah, I understand that aspect. I
Yeah.
just mean like after she shot him in the head and he was dead, why did she leave? Like if he's dead, then she should want to take over. So why would she want to go blow up his thing unless she's going to tear it all down? But wouldn't you start tearing it down in New York where you already are? Why go
She
to
couldn't
Oklahoma and like start killing on the outskirts? You're already at the heart.
she couldn't learn her Choctaw powers in New York, Chris. She had to come to Oklahoma to learn her Choctaw abilities.
And I mean, I understand that, but
Yeah.
like those are the things that kept happening in the show, and I'm like, wait, why is she here?
Mm-hmm.
Like she didn't want her family to know, but she has like, don't tell anybody I'm here, but I have everyone's phone number and they're texting me constantly.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know.
Yeah, some of it's definitely disjointed, like
I mean, just
written weirdly, edited weirdly, not enough time.
we
That's
wouldn't
just one
have
of
we
those
wouldn't have
things.
biscuits if she didn't go home. So
Old biscuits.
old
Biscuits
biscuits.
Biscuits did get me when he was looking at his grandma when he was driving that car with the bumper hanging off
Oh
though.
yeah,
It was just that was like the funniest part of the show, just
it
staring at her
was.
for a long time, like,
It's like as he's driving by with the truck all falling apart.
yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I just like I said, I just wish some more people, and maybe it was more episodes. Just Bonnie needed to be built up a little bit more. Grandma needed to be built up a little bit more. Um,
Yeah, I think the grandma and the grandpa kind of had some nice moments. Them being
were
like,
they grandma, grandpa? Because in the flashback they were together, but then it seemed like they weren't together. Because then he did they break up?
yeah, that was the point, is they like divorced or something
Oh,
somewhere along the line, and he was like trying to rekindle and she wasn't into it. Then kind of at the end they kind of did a little bit. Uh is that grandpa? Maybe not. I don't know. She never referred to him as grandpa, but could have been, or it could
I
have
don't
just
know.
been
They
a guy
because in the flashback in the opening they were together,
right.
and
They
then
were,
and
I know
then
they were together. I just don't know if that was Maya's
yeah.
grandfather. It could have just been some other dude grandma was banging. Um
I mean,
but
it is
that
what it is.
that's Maya though. But like we did touch on Kingpin a little bit. I liked Kingpin a lot in this. I he's definitely not to the level of Netflix, but it's definitely an improvement from what what he was in Hawkeye. Hawkeye was kind of a cartoony version because it was, not as a serious toned, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I did kind of like him kind of getting back there a little bit, definitely not there. I'm excited about the future of Kingpin. I mean, spoilers at the end of this. Did you watch the post credits with him on the plane? And
I read about it after the fact, but I didn't
okay,
watch it. Show ended and I turned it off, and I didn't think about. I should have thought about it. I don't know. I thought it was Marvel Spotlight, so maybe things were different. But
yeah, they kind of been hinting at a story to come of him becoming mayor, which will follow Devil's Reign, which was a recent event in Marvel Comics that Chip Zdarsky wrote in Daredevil, where Kingpin is the mayor and he kind of
Mhm.
outlaws superheroes um, in New York and like can be put under arrest. And he has a team of superpowered people who would arrest anybody being a
Nice.
costume superhero on the street.
Yeah.
So it kind of seems like they're going down that path. But yeah, Kingpin, like you said at the beginning, I kind of agree. Anytime Vincent D'Onofrio wants to come show up and play Kingpin, it's cool with me.
So so now do we get with Kingpin? What Kingpin are we getting now? Because like this whole story, everything with Maya, everything we've seen from this Kingpin, from MCU Kingpin, has really been tied to Maya and his like guardianship for her, Uncle Kingpin, as I said earlier. That's just like what we've gotten, where he's very like heartful and he cares about her and he loves her and he's very emotional with her. And even in the Netflix shows, you had some of that, but like this was very much like a fatherly love with what he had for this girl going all the way through until his rage kicked in at the end and he was going to kill her and then she's touched his heart. So now like are we getting Kingpin where like he's now cut off and he's like I have no love in my heart anymore and I'm just going to be a brutal bastard, or are we getting like a Kingpin that's now seen the light?
I'm not sure where they're gonna go with them, honestly, for on that level.
Yeah.
Like that's why the ending of this show was kind of weird. I think it was just a way for him to get away. Like how he even got away from her, I don't know why she wouldn't just like beat him up until he couldn't move. He like
Yeah,
just
did she
jumped in
fix
it.
him or
I don't
like
know.
it seemed like they
He just screamed, "What did you do to me?" And then he just was in a
and then the
car
scene
getting,
ended
yeah.
and I was
So
like, wait, what did you do to him?
yeah, that part was a little strange.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his the feel for him is going to be like as soon as we get back. I think they might kind of just, hopefully this isn't just one of those things where they pretend it didn't happen. You know what I mean? um, but yeah, to answer your question, I don't know where they're
It's
going to go
crazy.
with them. Yeah,
It's crazy
yeah.
where they go. Um, I did find it funny with that dude. Was their plan? Once again, I did like this show. I swear. Um,
Are
was
you sure?
their plan was to go to the powwow and bazooka the crowd
Just kill everyone.
with a bazooka? They were like, you know what? We're just gonna kill everybody here. And
Kill
he
everybody with a
just pulled out a
bazooka.
bazooka and was like, I'm gonna launch this into the crowd real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, that was weird.
It just was, and that dude shot him in the head. He was like, "What?"
We got fireworks, folks.
Fireworks, folks. Yeah, I was just it. Like I said, it was all entertaining in its own way. Um,
We did mention real quick. I want to say we mentioned Daredevil, and he
yeah,
was only in about 5 minutes of this. Um, did you expect more? Were you hoping for more? Like, are you mad it was just a cameo?
yes.
Okay.
That was like I said, that was my overall problem with the show, and it's a lot of it's. I'm gonna take like 70% of the blame and blame 30 on marketing. Um,
Hmm.
but that was part of what I was looking forward to was that type of show. And then when they were like said dropping that whole fight sequence early, I'm like, oh, they're giving us one of the fights already. How many fights are going to be in this show? How many times are we going to see Daredevil? We know Daredevil's in it now, so that's awesome. And then, like I said, to really get that fight scene that they gave us a week ago, and that's it. And that was the only thing. Like there was really no other fights that were memorable or stood out or even happened. Like I said, the roller rink was kind of a thing, but
The only other one I thought was pretty okay was when like it was her and those two other guys just fighting all the security guards. Um, in that room when she came in with those two other dudes, and like the security guard tried to like feel her up or whatever.
oh, in the opening.
Was that the opening?
Yeah, that was the opening when she
Oh,
became.
that was before she fought Daredevil,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that whole fight before. Yeah, that whole sequence, that like one
Oh,
take
okay.
that they did. Like they were doing Netflix Daredevil. Like they did
Mhm.
this giant one take. It wasn't really a one take. They had their little cheaters in there, but they did like a simulated one take for this whole opening of them who are in those two guys going in there, killing everybody, shooting people in the head, doing all this stuff and fighting. And
Okay.
then that dude showed back up. Then Daredevil showed up and you continued that fight. And I was like, hell yes. And I was, like I said, they pumped me up for what this show was going to be. And then it just wasn't that. I
Mhm.
never went back to it. Nothing else touched that level. Nothing had that style. Nothing had that, like it was a completely different show.
Yeah,
Um,
it changed tones in the back half to be more Kingpin heavy, and then like they had to touch on her um power set and her family and all that stuff for the end. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
So like I don't
mm,
know. That just became my problem was like it's not what I wanted. So
I got you.
it's just hard to sit on. And like I said, it was right there. I mean, Hawkeye, all the parts with her with Hawkeye were different. And so like I said, when they're doing that and then doing everything that they did with a character that I didn't necessarily feel for, kind of just made it awkward. It was just awkward. But like
Sure.
I said, it's still with everything that I just said, it's still one of the better MCU projects in a while.
Yeah, and when you set the bar low, it's hard to not jump over it. But
Every
I
once in a while.
yeah, this show
Secret Invasion
definitely.
should have been an easy bar to clear.
I know it feels like we were kind of touching mostly on the flaws, but this show did have some stuff I like. The stuff we mentioned, the
Yeah.
Daredevil, the fighting, the contained feel of it. Um,
Yes.
Kingpin kind of put it over the top. I'm glad it wasn't all over the place, and we're not talking about the multiverse anywhere. Just with
Yes.
my all my multiverse fatigue, I'm glad I got a little Marvel, something that has nothing to do with that, and couldn't care less about what's going on in the multiverse.
Yeah.
So that's definitely part of it.
Oh,
And
that was a win, a huge win of just having a smaller
yeah,
story because even like Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, Eternals, like why does every TV show have to be the end of the world? Can't you just
mhm,
have some small like, hey, we need to stop this because he's going to blow up this one building or do one thing? Like, why does this need to be the end of the
mhm,
existence? You know,
right.
every threat doesn't need to be Avengers level threat.
No, and that's exactly what happened with Ant-Man and Quantumania. Like Ant-Man, we've talked about this,
Yep.
but Ant-Man shouldn't be saving the universe. Like Ant-Man
Yep.
should be doing bank heists. So
Yeah.
Maya needs to be worried about her hometown and Wilson Fisk. That's
Yeah.
what this show was about, and that's what it should have been about.
Yeah, and 100% they did a great job with that. I
Yeah.
want more small scale. And that was what
Hmm.
was always exciting about the Marvel Spotlight just idea that they want to do is have that street level as we've talked about even in this episode. Love street level. Love that kind of Spider-Man, Daredevil, heroes for hire kind of vibe and they have it now. Disney has all of that and they've made all of that canon with the MCU like it kind of was, I guess, but maybe wasn't. I don't know. Um,
Yeah.
they have mentioned the Avengers in like Daredevil, but
Did they?
cool.
I don't
Yeah, they
remember.
mentioned something about like the fight, like somewhere in one of the either first or second season, somewhere in Daredevil. I remember they mentioned like the big,
The
Battle of New York.
Battle of New York.
Um,
Okay.
they mentioned had some comments about it, but never really went too hard. Just more acknowledging that this is the same world, and
Mm.
then I don't know if at some point they walked it back, but I know now they've come out and they said everything Marvel is now canon for the MCU, and you're just like, all right, guys. They're like I said, it's that multiverse fatigue. I think
Did you watch Luke Cage? Any of it?
I watched about half of it. I've gone in and out of watching it. I've enjoyed what I've watched of it. I just it left Netflix somewhere in there and just never.
Well, just what was funny about it was somebody posted that after saying like Netflix Marvel is now canon to the MCU. Is like I'm gonna love seeing them explain how Cottonmouth becomes Blade. That's Mahershala Ali,
Yeah, yeah.
which is pretty funny, but whatever.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
One of my favorite lines of this. All
How
right,
Cottonmouth behind becomes Blade. That's gonna be a hell
uh,
of a movie.
right, uh, and just kind of the connecting a little bit, but along the same lines. One of my favorite lines of this 5 episodes was after, I think it was in the first episode, after she'd fought Daredevil and then she like got away or he left or whatever. Their battle's unfinished. But when she was back having dinner with Kingpin and he was like, I've never seen anyone fight him like that before. And I don't know why I liked that because that's the first time he's ever mentioned Daredevil in the MCU.
Yeah,
So it just kind of gives you the idea like, yeah, they have this history with each other. And so I guess everything that we did watch with them before on Netflix has happened in this world.
yeah.
So um I just liked that him talking about Daredevil.
It made me want to go watch Daredevil.
I
I ain't
thought the
gonna
same
lie
thing.
about
I
that.
kind of want to watch Daredevil again. I do.
Yeah, I like I said, I enjoyed the hell out of Daredevil. I did watch all of Daredevil. I watched all three seasons of Daredevil, even watching the third one that came after the Defenders, and I didn't know what they were talking about for a minute. Like they were because it picked up like right at the end of the Defenders, and then it's like Daredevil season three, and they're like Matt Murdock's all beat up from whatever happened to the Defenders. I'm like, what the fuck happened to this dude?
He
Um,
got beat up by Sigourney Weaver or whoever it was.
I think it
Susan
was
Sarandon
Sigourney
or something.
Weaver. I think it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
But yeah, there's still a part of me that wants to watch all those shows. Even Punisher, I always heard was great. So, and I think Punisher is one that you could just watch.
Yeah.
God, you remember how cool it was when they announced that Punisher was going to be in Daredevil season two? And I
Yeah.
still remember some of those scenes, man, where they're like sitting on the roof after they beat the shit out of each other, just like talking. That scene was awesome.
Yeah, I got to rewatch some of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. We'll have to discuss some of these. We'll have to discuss some of these future episodes that we want to do, talking about the Netflix MCU.
Yeah, most definitely.
Most definitely. But overall, I want to say that Echo's worth the watch. Just depends on, like I said, what your expectations are. I know people are shitting on it for stupid reasons, and that's people's being people. Um, but I think overall it was a good show. It was a wholesome show for being a TVMA.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit
It,
slower than I expected it to be, but all in all, I think it was a bright spot in the MCU.
yeah, it's definitely like we said, it has its flaws, but it's I agree it's worth watching. It's the best thing they've done over the past few projects. I mean, I'll go as far to say that.
Oh yeah.
Um
Like I said, I think it's the
and
most
that's
Guardians 3, and I think this is probably the first time I've enjoyed something within the MCU since Guardians 3.
right. So I think if you are a fan of like me and Chris, of like street level fighting stuff, little contained stories, Um, you could enjoy this. So I think definitely it's worth a watch. And yeah, I had fun with Echo. It was cool, despite its flaws.
Despite its flaws, there were plenty of flaws to spite it on, but I think
Mhm.
it's, like I said, it just makes for a fun conversation, and sometimes it's fun to poke at some of those flaws and be like, what is happening right now?
We
Um,
poke the bear over here, guys. We poke the bear.
Yeah. So what do you think of Marvel's Echo? Did you watch it? Do you plan on watching it? Why did you watch it? Why didn't you? What'd you think? Let us know. You can hit us up on all social media and podcast platforms at Raised A Geek. We are everywhere. So just type in Raised A Geek and chances are you will find us. You can also make sure you find us by shooting us an email at raisedageek@gmail.com. So let us know what you thought of Echo, and we might give you a shout out on the show. So definitely keep that up. So, Don, before we jump into this Packers Cowboys game here and see how the Super Wild Card weekend ends, you have any final thoughts on Marvel's Echo?
No, man, no final thoughts. Just check it out. That's all I can say. I guess check it out. It's worth it. That's all.
It's on Disney Plus and Hulu, so chances are you got something and you'll be able to check it out. So definitely let us know what you think at all those places I told you earlier. But with that said, I think that's going to do it for us this week. So for Raise the Geek, I am Chris.
And I'm Don.
And thanks for checking out the show.
Where geek is all we speak.